Morning, guys. Whew. Cold this morning. Almost snowed here. Not quite. Still cold though. Whew. Guys, you ever heard the saying, all press is good press? I have. Even if they're talking bad about you, at least they're talking about you, right? You know, God has a funny way of flipping things like that in a way. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Joseph's story. You know, Joseph got beat up by his brothers and thrown into a pit. They were jealous of him. Joseph's dad gave him a beautiful coat of many colors, different than the other ones that the brothers had. So they were jealous about it. Joseph also had a gift. He was gifted. They beat him up, they jumped him, and threw him in a pit, and sold him to slavery. Well, one would think that that would be the end of his story. But that's not how God works. No. If he wouldn't have been in that pit, Pharaoh would have never picked him up. The Pharaoh saw Joseph. Not only did he see Joseph, but he saw the gift that Joseph had. And he gave him a job right there next to him. Can you imagine how nice of a job that would have been? So if it wouldn't have been for that bad press from his brothers, that wouldn't have happened. God used that. God has a funny way of doing things like that. Turning things that are meant to be your downfall into your victory. Yeah. Been working on some music lately. And we're excited. The songs are getting better at the production. Things are just getting better. And it kind of reminds me my wife and I had wrote a song called St. Simon's. One of the earlier songs that we wrote. And I've been noticing that it's been getting some good attention lately. And I'm excited about that. Somebody's made like a playlist and a lot of people they're streaming it. They dig it, which is cool. So I figured I'd give a little background of, you know, what that song's about, how it was written. Well, my wife and I know we were eating breakfast one day and we heard a Beach House song come on the radio at the restaurant we were at. My wife loves Beach House, and I like Beach House too. And I told her, my wife, I'd said, hey, why don't we write a Beach House-esque song? And I'll write a vocal part for you, you know? She was excited, so we did. She came up with the keyboard part, and then I wrote the melody and the lyrics and, you know, the other parts. And that's what we have now. It was pretty easy. Sometimes the better ones come out that way. They're easy. Now, that song is about a place. We got married on St. Simon's. But it wasn't like a regular wedding. fact, the lyrics kind of go into that a little bit. The world began, brand new again, down by the lighthouse on St. Simon's. No reservations, no venue, just us and the rocks on that island. When we got married, guys, we were so young. We had no money. We had no money, and neither of our families were going to be putting in for that. They just weren't those kind of families that were going to do that. So we eloped. My grandfather's a minister, and he did it for us. We made our own little bouquet, dressed up in what best outfit we could. We had one witness, and then we went and walked up next to the lighthouse there on St. Simon's on the prettiest part of the day, and got married, got eloped right there. Kind of reminds me of that scene from Star Wars a little bit, you know, when Anakin and Padme got married. It was wild too, because it was a little cloudy and dreary that day, and the sun came out just for that moment, and then not pretty much like right after that, it started raining. After we were done, it's like it came out just for us. And I remember when I wrote that melody line and the lyric, I specifically wrote it for her voice. Christina's got she got a nice alto, even a contra sometimes. And I remember with that song specifically, I told her, I said, I want you to embrace that. I want you to embrace that lower part of your voice, and really get into that when we record it. And she did. She nailed her part. It was so good. I'm so excited. I'm so glad that so many people are interested in playing that song, because it's been getting us some attention, and people have been asking. They've been wondering, you know, what's about this song. And so I have to thank whoever's been making those playlists and listening, because if you hadn't, I don't know if we would have got that kind of attention. So thank you, whoever you are. And I just want to, you know, remind everyone that, you know, whatever you're going through in life, you know, however it turns, you might think that something's not working out, but, you know, God has a funny way of taking something that might have planned or might have been, you know, the intention of it to not be so good for you, and then to flip it and elevate you. Have a good day.